The history of horse domestication during the Bronze Age is pretty well understood for certain parts of Asia and Europe. But in Sicily, in the central Mediterranean, evidence for horse domestication is sparse until the Iron Age. Now, a new study published in the journal PLoS One suggests that horse domestication in Sicily took place earlier than previously thought, and that this particular human-equid relationship was pretty complex. Let's get into it. Both horses and donkeys played important roles in prehistoric human societies. During the Lower and Middle Paleolithic periods, wild equids were hunted for food, but by the Neolithic and the Bronze Age, domestication had begun. On the Eurasian steppe, the earliest evidence of horse domestication has been found dating to between the 4th and 3rd millennia BCE. In Egypt, at around the same time, the donkey was already being used as a pack animal. On mainland Italy, horse domestication began in the Neolithic, also known as the Chalcolithic or Copper Age. However, the evidence is from ritual contexts rather than economic ones. A full economic integration only took place there in the Middle Bronze Age. In Sicily, nothing concrete was known about horse domestication before the Iron Age until this recent study. As part of the University of South Florida's Mediterranean Diet Archaeology Project, a team of researchers carried out lipidomic and proteomic analyses of pottery from the site Polizello Mountain. The aim was to find out if equine-derived substances could be found in ritual or culinary Bronze Age contexts there, and was meant to challenge the traditional view that horses were not part of diets in insular societies at that time. The earliest depictions of equids in Sicily date to the late Epigravetian and Mesolithic. These depictions are figurative carvings etched into cave walls and are found alongside depictions of bovine and deer. This is similar to the late glacial period art found in Western Europe, where paintings and carvings of wild animals are common in caves. Sicily and much of southern and eastern Europe was home to a wild equid species at the time called Equus hydruntinus, or the European wild ass, which eventually went extinct in the Holocene. It had reached Sicily via a land bridge from mainland Italy during the Vermian Pleniglacial. It's thought that Sicily was one of the last refuges for this species. Keep in mind that when I talk about late glacial Sicily or the impact of the ice ages on Sicily, it wasn't covered in ice sheets itself. It was, however, impacted by lower sea levels and a wetter climate. The site of Polizello Mountain is located between Caltanissetta and Agrigento. Agrigento is famous for its Valley of the Temples, which is actually a ridge where 7 Greek temples were built during the classical period. They are now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. For a long time, it's been known that Polizello Mountain was occupied from the Iron Age until the middle 5th century BCE. Its acropolis was a focus for communal rituals, including animal sacrifices and votive offerings which were placed into pits. Large enclosures there were found to contain ritually broken ceramics, faunal remains, and votive objects. Its ceramics were both local, but made in the Greek style, as well as imported. Eventually, the site lost its ritual role, becoming a domestic space. In 1926, earlier evidence of occupation at Polizello Mountain was discovered. The famous archaeologist Paolo Orsi, who the museum in Syracuse is named after, found a megalithic chamber tomb dating to the early Bronze Age on the eastern slope of the mountain. Similar burials belonged to the Castelluccio culture and were associated with local elites adopting foreign funerary practices. This one in particular bore similarities to those in Malta at the time. In 2005, another early Bronze Age site was identified there during excavations to install a permanent fencing system on the southern slope of the mountain. At this site, archaeologists found a stone enclosure and a conical boulder with a niche inside it, as well as 2 isolated chamber tombs of the Castelluccio type, which had been looted at some point in the past, and a scattering of Castelluccio pottery. The stone circle measured 4.6 meters in diameter and had a 0.5 meter width entrance in its southern side. A partition separated its internal space. It was covered with a dirt floor. Several earlier layers were found underneath this dirt floor. 2 of these had traces of charcoal and ashes, which may indicate a destructive event. The earliest layer had 3 circular shallow pits dug into it. Animal bones found in the floor layers gave radiocarbon dates within the chronology associated with the Castelluccio culture. The boulder was natural and had been rolled from the upper slope of the mountain to its current position. A rectangular niche had been carved into its western side, measuring 1.3 meters in height by 1 meter in width, and it had a depth of 1.15 meters. Its internal surfaces had been left rough. Inside the niche, archaeologists found soil mixed with a fragment of pottery. All pottery excavated from the site was of the Castelluccio style, which consists of decorative motifs with recurring patterns and mirrored designs. It included cooking and tableware. A large terracotta phallus was also found in the earliest floor level between the entrance and one of the pits. These objects are associated with fertility rituals of the Castelluccio culture. 3 grinding stones, flint flakes, and flint blades were also recovered from the stone enclosure. The enclosure does not appear to be a dwelling since there's no evidence of coverage. The researchers suggest both the enclosure and the boulder with the niche were used for rituals, possibly fertility ones. 54 pottery samples were retrieved from the floor levels of the stone enclosure and the boulder with the niche. And in this new study, they were analysed for organic residues. A proteomic analysis found a biomolecular signature for horse products in many of the vessels. SU refers to the floor layer. Equine serum albumin was found in 23 of the 54 sherds. This can belong to horses or donkeys, but considering the archaeological and zooarchaeological context, the team think it's likely that the albumin came from horses. These findings do suggest that horses were part of the early Bronze Age diet of the people of Polizello Mountain. However, since the faunal remains of horses are scarce at Bronze Age sites in general, including in domestic refuse, it could be that they were only consumed in ritual contexts. When looking at other ancient cultures, the horse played an important role in cosmology as occupying and crossing the boundary between the living and the dead. The horse was depicted pulling the solar chariot across the sky and accompanying a human soul into the afterlife. Its speed and strength made it an important symbolic totemic animal related to death, rebirth, and transformation. In Sicily, the evidence that horse products were consumed at a mountain sanctuary suggests that the horse also played a similar role in the Castelluccio culture's cosmological view of the world. No proteins from other animals were identified in the proteomic analysis. However, this could be because only certain vessels were selected for analysis, or because other proteins had degraded, or because these particular vessels were used one time only or purely for the purpose of carrying horse-related products. The lipid analysis wasn't as clear. It showed that all of the vessels were used to process lipid-containing substances, but could not differentiate between animal and plant origins. Overall, this study is interesting because it's the earliest secure evidence of horse consumption in Sicily. Other examples were found in the past, but in less secure stratigraphic contexts. It also means that non-local species were adopted by local elites, and given the insular nature of such Mediterranean island societies at that time, this means that external contacts were made. The Polizello mountain site was in use as a sanctuary and focus of ritual for longer than it was previously thought. From the Bronze Age through the Iron Age and into the Classical period, this site held significance in some form or another to the people who lived nearby. I personally find the Castelluccio culture really fascinating. Many of its artifacts are on display at the Paolo Orsi Museum in Syracuse, Sicily, and they are really impressive. I've been to that museum many times, and I highly recommend it if you are staying on the east coast of Sicily. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.